Alrighty, so we're back here out in the orchard, seeing what we can do and what can we see related to insect management and entomology. Okay, so haven't really checked it out here, but let's see what we can find. Let's see if we can find anything worth looking at. All right, so just take a quick walk through and see what we can find. All right. So I remember we were talking about IPM, you know, one of them being cultural and mechanical, then biological, and then chemical, right? So one thing I want to point out about insects is that if you let them have a suitable environment to live in, they'll stay there. They're almost as bad as weeds, okay? So I just saw a wasp in here, so I'm not trying to kick air anywhere. But look at this big pile of different weeds, right? It's gonna be hard to see, but if I just like swift my foot through it, it's really hard to tell through the camera, but there were a lot of little bugs coming out of it, okay? So this is a suitable host environment for these plants, for these insects, okay? So here we are by these nectarine trees, and we can kind of see that something has been feeding on these nectarines, right? Whether it just be the carp, the mesocarp of the fruits, right? The outside or the inside, it just really depends. And one thing I really want to mention is that sometimes it can be severe where it's not edible, but also there's maybe some minor things, like maybe something like this. Let me zoom in, focus, come on, focus. So you can see that there is a little bit of damage on there on the fruit from insects. But one thing I want to bring up is that although some fruit has some insect damage, it doesn't mean it's not edible. But consumers, people like you and me, aren't always aware of that. Doesn't mean that we can't eat it, it just doesn't look pretty. And a lot of people eat with their eyes, and if they don't see that it looks good, they probably won't eat it. But there's also examples where it can be severe. Like, look at this guy right here. All right, I can focus on it. That thing is gone. It's not edible. It's been being fed on for a while now, okay? And it just really depends about it when insects feed on stuff, but marketability really does take a big toll on production and how much a farmer makes, just because a lot of consumers aren't aware about what we're actually eating and if it's still edible, which in most cases it can be, okay? It's kind of one thing I wanted to show you if I can find it. If you look here, let's see if I can get close enough. You can kind of see some shininess right there. That could be from the fruit, or that can be something known as honeydew, basically like a byproduct coming out of insects. Basically they secrete this fluid, and it can also damage the fruit by staying on there. So we mentioned fruits and other produce, the actual part we eat, being damaged through insect consumption. That is depending on how severe it is. Sometimes it's actually not edible because of how severe it is. Sometimes it just depends on the marketability of the produce. So like I said, humans, consumers like you and I, we eat with our eyes sometimes, and if it doesn't look that pretty, we probably won't eat it. It doesn't mean that we won't it's not edible. It just means it doesn't look as pretty as it could be. That's the whole concept behind fresh market produce, okay? But because of those misconceptions from consumers, farmers sometimes also take a hit because they're not making as much money as they could with that produce that they grew. Because it just doesn't look that pretty. Like I said, doesn't mean we can't eat it. We just prefer not to because it doesn't look pretty. But on the other hand, insects can also damage different plant parts on the plant, which affects its productivity. One thing I can think of right now is what I'm looking at is these leaves right here. These leaves are showing notable damage from dust mites or any type of mite. And you can tell because they have this thing known as silvering. Let me see if I can zoom in really quick. Trying to find a good one. So right here, Oh man, I just lost the leaf. Whatever, we'll just do this one. Okay. So, looking at right here, there's this thing called silvering. Dust mites feed on the leaves and cause this thing called silvering, which kind of makes it look like it's been rubbed against some sandpaper or whatever. And basically, this is bad. Why it's bad is because it's on the leaf. What is important that's happening on the leaf? Think to yourself really quick. Photosynthesis. Yep, you're right. And photosynthesis is important because it makes food for the plant. It's taking in sunlight, it's respirating oxygen, it's taking in carbon dioxide. It's a cycle, and it's important to plant growth and humans. So if a leaf is damaged, it's not going to be as productive in photosynthesis, which is kind of the root of plant growth and a lot of different things. Okay, so just think about that. I know it looks a little blurry. I'm trying to focus every so often. But just something to consider. All right, so I know this video was a little bit shorter than the last one. That's because it's a little hard to show you guys insects and insect damage through a screen. Why is that? Because insects can be super tiny. They can be super tiny, and sometimes we can't see them over a screen. Even human beings in person, we have to have this magnifying glass, this hand lens, that's what we call it, and to look at these different pests. Okay, so just in a few examples that we learned from today, you should be able to do your assignments based on the presentation, the lesson, and this video. Hopefully you guys learned a little bit from this video, and now we can do that assignment. Okay, this was just a brief walkthrough. Like I said, if we weren't in virtual, I'd have you guys out here in person trying to scope out and survey some things of your own. Okay, but now you have the stuff to do your assignment. All right, let me know if you have any questions.